Have you ever wanted to be the bad guy? Well, one of my favorite games, A Hat in Time, does not let you do that. Wait, what? But, thanks to the talented modder Argle Bargle, Mustache Girl is playable in A Hat in Time, though her moveset is very different from Hat Kid's. The mechanics of A Hat in Time are unsurprisingly based on Hat Kid's hats. Searching, sprinting, explosions, ground pounds, and even some platforms' tangibility are all bound to the left trigger. But, according to Argle Bargle, Mustache Girl uses a much more destructive method of traversal.
Bombs?
Mustache Girl can bounce to great heights with these explosive conduits, though she has a couple other limitations that we'll get into as this challenge goes on. My overall goal is to find out how much of the game can be beaten with the moveset presented to us by this mod. With an objective in mind and the world ahead of us, let's get right into it. Mafia Town serves as A Hat in Time's introductory act, a place to learn your skill set and catch glimpses of what the future holds. It's also where we meet Mustache Girl. The first limitation we hit during our journey across the town is actually the very first timepiece, the game's main collectibles. This sparkly gadget requires us to hunt down and kill the mafia man who found it, normally by stealing his umbrella and brutally beating him to death. Umbrellas, however, are not Mustache Girl's style. Instead, we can assault him from the air with those bombs that I mentioned. Immediately afterwards, we're dropped into a level with walls all around us. It may be an appropriate time to mention that we can't wall jump. Fortunately though, Mustache Girl's bombs don't just bounce her off the ground. They propel her away from any surface they touch. Throwing all 4 bombs in rapid succession gives us a quick and easy ascent up this wall, showcasing our main option to circumvent the use of a wall run throughout this playthrough. Now we can continue forwards and rescue me. No time to be confused by these obvious time loop shenanigans. We have to scare the hell out of an old man and beat up his boss. Both of these levels prove to be shockingly easy, even letting us grab an extra badge pin along the way. Though Mustache Girl Prime isn't too impressed with our little imposter gig and stole half our cash. Man, no wonder she's the villain. Fortunately, the rest of Mafia Town is kind of a breeze, letting us plow almost effortlessly to the next few timepieces. This moment of reprieve is probably a good time to do something else productive as well. So I spent some time collecting pawns to get the No-Bonk badge. Using this one, we can eke past a few jumps that would otherwise be a tad difficult with our current movement. You may have noticed so far, but there are a lot of different combinations of bombs, wall kicks, and dives that we can do to gain various amounts of height. The reliable choice for most obstacles is a simple double jump and a wall kick, but that gets us minimal height as opposed to Hat Kid's wall run. We can, however, use a bomb on the ground followed by another wall kick to gain even more height. Our moveset is really starting to feel like we can take this game by storm. That is, until we reach one level in particular. Cheating the race. Remember when I mentioned all of Hat Kid's abilities? Well, I conveniently left out the final one that can be unlocked. Time Stop. No, we're not doing that. Cheating the race stars a mafia man who has become the fastest thing alive by strapping himself to a rocket, rivaling even a nondescript blue hedgehog. Because of this, the game intends for the player to use the Time Stop hat to cheat the race, hence the title. It's possible for Hat Kid to win without it, but that requires the sprint hat. This might be where I have to announce that not every timepiece is going to be possible for us to... Wait, what? Well, as it turns out, the ice bombs have a funny little quirk with their physics. If you connect one with the ground right as you're about to touch it yourself, you'll be launched forwards at immeasurable speeds. With Mafia Town thoroughly trounced, we can collect a new form of movement. Yoinking a single timepiece from the vault allows us to use them as bombs. They have a good amount of bouncing height as well as fairly low cooldown. Wait, aren't these just regular bombs? It's time to move on to Deadbird Studio, and what do you know? The badge seller is offering the Fast Hatter badge. Might as well make our bombs even faster. You gotta be f***ing kidding me. Not much of note happens here either, save for some expert artistry over some random girl's face. Are you even a licensed photographer? We helped both of these media production majors finish their degrees with a couple of short films. We board the conductor's train, ready to solve the murder mystery plot that he's prepared and get... Oh. I guess that crazy speed has some drawbacks. We'll have to be careful around ice platforms from here on out. Once we finish the level the long way around, we clear out the moon and get gatekept by this hanging stoplight at Train Rush. Well, I guess there's nowhere else to go except Subcon Forest. I've had warmer welcomes before, but I'm sure the locals here are just a little bit... Sure. Fine, Snatcher, I'll play. We sign away our soul and get to work as his little errand boy. There's a lot to explore here in Subcon Forest, but all we need right now is the hookshot badge. We turn up the heat on a few firefoxes and nab that badge, as well as another badge pin to hold it. Might as well grab these 2 timepieces while we're here, yeah? Oh, it was a lever! Got it. Train Rush isn't any more of a challenge than Hat Kid deals with, since the level is fairly linear and almost entirely horizontal. I cannot quite say the same for the Big Parade. This god-awful group of flipping birds can go straight to hell with their overeager pace and... Sorry, I got a little ahead of myself there. The Parade Owls pose a challenge for any character who requires careful timing and positioning to pull off jumps, and the moonset has a lot of small platforms with little space to make your vertical movement. It's a little bit tight, but Mustache Girl can indeed charge straight through the big parade with a steady hand and careful pacing. Award ceremony isn't much of a show either, save for this one jump that I severely overcomplicated. Other way, Sarah. There you go. Alright, DJ Grooves, this is what you get for taking such a terrible picture of me! Finishing up the time rifts here brings us to the Moon Rift, which gives us the same problem as the Big Parade with a little twist. This is actually a more fun rendition of that level, who would have thought? Since you don't need to backtrack to each individual part of the level, the parade behind Mustache Girl isn't too long, and you have plenty of space for movement, but you still need to think on your feet. Very fun level. Now we can head back to the coolest guy in the game and ask him nicely for our soul back. I'm sure he'll understand.
Oh wait, it's you.
But there's still quite a bit standing in our way to round up the remaining timepieces. To start, I thoroughly enjoyed all of the Dweller Bomb bounces that you have to do to traverse the forest. Oh, right, Dweller Bombs! These little explosives are the only types of explosions that can interact with the normally intangible Dweller platforms, leading to some unique opportunities for platforming. They're also the final piece of our moveset that I can show off for now. A trick shot or two with these last paintings into the fire, and we're almost done with Subcon Forest. I only have one note about Vanessa's Manor, since you usually can't wall run here anyways. Entering the mansion prevents Hat Kid from using her hats, and the same applies to most of Mustache Girl's bombs, save for the Dweller Bomb. Interesting coding trivia. I wonder if that's how they're identified for the death wishes too. Huh, it looks like something's happening back at the ship. What could that be? Yeah, I'm sure that's fine. Back into Subcon Forest we go for Snatcher's delivery service. Grabbing this timepiece usually requires you to use the scooter badge and fling mail at some of Snatcher's minions. The scooter badge only works with the
Sprint hat, or it does absolutely nothing.
Fortunately, Argle Bargle thought of this when making the mod and added a mail bomb for this level only. Man, they really thought of everything, huh? With every timepiece in Subcon Forest collected, it's time to get our soul back.
You're probably waiting for me to turn blue, aren't you? Sorry, kiddo. Blue doesn't suit me. And I guess that makes me...
Turns out he's not. And Snatcher goes down even more simply than Subcon's other timepieces. Now we just get to go to my favorite level in the game, Sleepy Subcon. Nothing much happened here, I just wanted to jam out to the music. Ah, serenity. We grabbed Slenderman's 8 pages, and now we're off to Alpine Skyline, the final act of the base game. Each peak provided its own little challenge for Mustache Girl, though the birdhouse proved to be a disappointment. Not even a single wall to run! While the Lava Cake is a similar story, its path also leads to a sub-area called the Mystifying Time Mesa, an area designed as an optional tutorial for the Time Stop hat. As we've discussed, such hats are unavailable, but when has that stopped us before? With a few precise jumps and wall kicks, we can completely skip the challenges laid before us on this island. Optional? Yes. Still possible? Absolutely. Another interesting bit of trivia about these islands is that the thief cats here can actually take Mustache Girl's bombs, another similarity they share with Hat Kid's own hats. The windmill also held very little challenge, save for a few wall bounces that feel more precarious than they look. The Twilight Bell, however, held much more within its frame than the previous 3 peaks combined. This place asks for dozens of precise jumps with dweller bombs, janky dweller platform physics, and even scary music. The jumps, while not too difficult, are certain to make your palms sweaty, as one small slip-up will send you plummeting into the void, or worse, an earlier part of the level. Dweller bombs are also very finicky with how they activate. Aerial tosses are intended only to be used as a platform bounce, but ground tosses give a sphere of dweller activation for a slightly more extended time. However, this time frame is still nowhere near that of Hat Kid's Dweller Mask and must be aimed properly and precisely, each one having a very limited range, though most puzzles requiring such things are repeatable. The last trial that the Twilight Bell had laid out for us was actually collecting the timepiece. What is usually a simple task of just activating the Dweller Mask turned into a desperate fling of bombs to find the perfect angle where Mustache Girl could swiftly cut through the platform and then crawl underneath to claim her prize. After getting stuck in place, we managed to grab the timepiece. This area took much more time and thought than others, and especially more than a normal playthrough. In the end, we make our way out of the bell and start to do a very odd weeding job. With the garden firmly weeded, we can head off to the rifts for these levels. The Twilight Bell rift was a tad frustrating in its final challenge, but overall wasn't too bad. Grabbing the 3rd comic page in the Purple Time rift was rough. These jagged walls are meant to be precisely climbed by Hat Kid, not by Mustache Girl, with an unwieldy bounce that can go any which way off of a wall. Depending on how RNGesus felt, we could be sent off into the abyss, or we could actually make it up the rest of the climb. The rest of the rift was nothing too special, and that's technically the last timepiece of the base game. We should probably go clean this up. On the way through the attic, we do have to do some weird dweller bomb shenanigans to get to the final level. But over here, it's just one simple ice bomb and... oh, not again. Luckily, we can still activate this switch by climbing up onto the dweller block and diving into it. We turn up to see that Mustache Prime has gathered hundreds of this world's denizens to be judged. Time to grab a ticket, I guess. Yeah, that's a good number. After this time loop, we've learned from our villainous ways. It's time to put an end to this.
Mustache, hotly, hoodwear, statue poser, castle dweller, ticket, give it picnic!
The finale doesn't prove to be much of a problem, only requiring a few precise wall bounces with techniques that we've already learned. And a skill issue right here, but don't worry about that one. The fight against our fate lies just ahead. Our final battle with ourself from the past is only difficult for one particular reason: homing attacks. Hat Kid has an incredibly useful X prompt which appears when she's positioned above an enemy, allowing her to quickly seek and slap the living out of whatever she sees. Mustache Girl replaces that with the wall kick, which we have so graciously used throughout this run, though that does mean that we have to aim every single attack, something that this game wasn't necessarily designed for. I haven't mentioned it so far since most bosses remain fairly stagnant, but Mustache Prime darts around like an Enderman in rain. Literally, look at her teleporting in Phase 2. Regardless, it's not too different from a normal run once we figure out the positioning of our kicks. We get some help from our friends along the way, eventually regaining Mustache Prime's collection of timepieces. Of course, we have to let her have one of them in the final cutscene so that she can become us in the future. Oh, that's how the time loop starts. We roll through the credits, and after all that mayhem, I could use a vacation. Lord knows that I'd like to be somewhere cold. I've always loved the ocean. On an unrelated note, next up on our timepiece crusade is Arctic Cruise. But first, let's finally spice up our fashion. There we go. The first act is a simple collectathon where we explore the level with mild use of advanced techniques. The jumps to get on the ship are actually where we run into the most problems. A normal playthrough with Hat Kid would never have required air dash canceling until now, showing the player how to do so at this point to get her up some combined horizontal and vertical challenges. Mustache Girl uses her air dash to gain height on occasion, so what do? We need to learn some new moves. So far, we've only been operating with the assumption that bouncing with a bomb into a wall kick gives us the most height. But there's actually a way to go even further beyond. Starting with a grounded bomb bounce, we can bounce off the wall again and immediately wall kick, then bounce again and dive back towards the wall. We can even bounce again with our final bomb if we need to. We use a modified version of this jump to get up the platform and finally make our way onto the SS literally can't sink. I wonder what's going to happen by the end of the act. We take care of our little shard collectathon and ask the captain if he might need some help around the place. He gets us working and we do a decent job of cleaning up since we've got some crazy moves now, and I've got plenty of practice searching this ship from top to bottom. We even got through it without making the captain mad at all. Never mind. We still got it on the first try though. Now all we have to do is make our way over to that timepiece in the distance. How should I... Huh. That could work.
Who's at the wheel? We're headed straight for an iceberg. All hands on deck.
Well, we caused this mess. May as well fix it as best as we can. We save each and every passenger and crew on the ship, making sure to go back for the captain after all's said and done. We cut it a little close in the end, but what's life without living a little dangerously? The first time rift is nothing to write home about, but then we come to my personal Waterloo and Hat in Time. Deep Sea Rift. This level features tons of tight platforming challenges with fire everywhere, and I tend to struggle with it even when I'm playing normally. Surprising others, but not myself, I took a long time to master this level again as a new character. These two wall-running Dweller Bomb segments turned out to be particularly rough, especially considering that those are Mustache Girl's two most lacking abilities, and those sections accounted for 90% of my deaths in this level. I didn't need to go for every rift pond, but who would I be if I didn't try? Well, not someone who spent an hour on a single level, that's for sure. I tend to pride myself on being good at video games, and this level certainly took a peg off of my pride. However, after an hour of attempts, I can call this level finished. I solemnly vow that I'll come back for that last page later. And now we're finally off to the last act of A Hat in Time, Nyakuza Metro. Honestly, this challenge has been pretty simple so far. I don't expect this place to provide much difficulty, especially considering how the rest of the run has gone. However, after collecting each of the timepieces above ground, we do find the first truly impossible collectible. This fan is impassable without the time stop hat, and I tried just about everything. Regardless, there are more than enough rift tokens in A Hat in Time to get everything in the lottery.
Shh! Get out of here! You're ruining my hiding spot, kid!
Dude, this is not a good hiding spot. It's not even legal in the format we play. Since the Metro has very little emphasis on the Dweller Mask and wall climbing, we get to the smooth and relaxing vacation that we've been looking for. Why do I ever speak? Upon my arrival at this Dweller ceiling, I thought that this timepiece would be the first truly impossible main objective. Until this moment, I believed that each objective would be obtainable in one way or another. Now we have to discover even more movement to get past just one little ceiling. Using that same super wall bounce that we figured out before, now we have to get a perfect angle, bounce off the wall, and land on top of the Dweller ceiling. After nearly 10 minutes of finagling and failed attempts, we finally made it. The most frustrating challenge in Nyakuza Metro is completed, at 1 HP. We carefully navigate through the rest of the manhole's tunnels, grab a quick bite to heal up, and snag this terribly frustrating timepiece. Pink Boss Station Manhole is always a fun time, mostly just featuring a run along the trains and an absolute abuse of this game's momentum physics. With that out of the way, we rush through the mostly downward finale, only reaching a couple of snags which take a few attempts to get through. Only 2 timepieces remain, and I know that both are fairly simple. First up is the Rumby Factory Time Rift, a linear level which mostly features small jumps and easy drops. After we grab all the pages, we gain access to the true final timepiece of A Hat in Time, the Tour Time Rift. Despite all of the build-up to this moment, this final challenge offers very little resistance to our movement, as we read the story of the real hero, obviously. With that being said, it really goes to show how much effort Argle Bargle put into this mod and how this challenge felt overall. The playthrough proved to be more of a change in direction for how to play A Hat in Time, rather than being a difficult roadblock to overcome. Every challenge seems perfectly doable as Mustache Girl, but flips the game's mechanics on its head and gives a completely new perspective for the player. Either way, I highly recommend this challenge. It was a super fun and engaging way to play the game that I love. I really couldn't see it being much more difficult, to be honest. Oh god. Oh no, he's coming. Please, don't make me do it, please! No! There. Now I can rest easy tonight.